Everyone loves the weather. Playing in the sun, gazing at the clouds, feeling the wind rush by. The weather can be as gentle as a spring breeze or as violent as a tornado. It can be hot or cold, wet or dry, windy or still. You never know quite what to expect, which is one of the things that makes weather so fascinating. Hi, I'm Spencer Christian, and I love weather too. That's why I became a forecaster, a person who studies weather. People ask me questions all the time about the weather, but you know what? Some of the most interesting questions come from kids like you. I think that's because the weather can be as wild and crazy as you guys can be. Anyway, we wanted to try to answer a lot of your great questions, like, why is the sky blue?
Why is the sky blue?
Sunlight is made up of waves of light that are of different lengths and different colors. You get a glimpse of these colors when you see a rainbow in the sky. When sunlight passes through air molecules and dust particles in the atmosphere, the shorter waves of light, the ones that are blue in color, are scattered. This is what gives the sky its blue appearance.
Why are sunsets red?
The sky looks red near the horizon because at that angle, the light's path through the atmosphere is long and runs into low-flying dust from the Earth's surface. Because the shorter blue waves have already been scattered coming down through the atmosphere, the red waves are the last to be scattered, and that is the color we see most in sunsets.
Why does thunder roar?
The sound of thunder is made when heat from a lightning bolt causes the air to rapidly expand. The force of that rapid expansion of air makes a sound, a loud noise, which we call thunder.
How fast is lightning?
It's so fast that its bolt could travel around the world in less than 1 second.
Is it possible to estimate the distance between you and a lightning bolt?
Yes, if you count the seconds that pass between when you see a lightning bolt and hear the resulting thunder, you can estimate the distance. Divide the number of seconds by 5 to get the approximate distance in miles to the lightning stroke. This works because the flash and the thunder begin at the same instant, but light travels much faster than sound and reaches you sooner. Light travels about 186,000 miles per second, and sound about 1/5 of a mile per second. Therefore, every 5 seconds you count is a distance of about 1.2 miles.
Hail, freezing rain, and sleet seem the same, but they're not. What's the difference?
Hail falls to the ground as a ball or clump of ice. Freezing rain forms when the ground is colder than the air. Raindrops freeze as soon as they hit the frozen ground or a frozen surface. Sleet is raindrops that freeze into ice pellets before striking the ground.
Where does snow come from?
Snow comes from the clouds, of course. When the moisture and dust particles inside clouds mix together and freeze, snowflakes form and fall to the ground.
I've heard that falling hail can be as big as softballs, but I've only ever seen tiny ones. Do you know what causes the different sizes?
As a raindrop falls, the air current pushes it up, high enough to reach colder air. Now there it freezes into a small piece of ice. As the ice pellet falls, it melts. Some pellets continue to fall to the ground. Others are lifted back up into colder air where they freeze and take on additional layers of ice. Now the ice pellet's size increases the more times it's lifted up into the colder air. When the pellet becomes too heavy for the air currents, it falls to the ground as a ball or clump of ice, which we call a hailstone.
What's the difference between fog, smog, and mist?
Fog, smog, and mist are clouds that develop on the ground. Their differences are subtle. Fog consists of large water droplets that are close together. This is why the air is dense and visibility is low when there is fog. Mist is thinner in the air than fog and consists of smaller water droplets that are farther apart. This is why misty air feels drier than fog. Now, smog is fog which is filled with pollutants.
Does a falling raindrop look like a football, a hamburger bun, or a teardrop?
A hamburger bun. When raindrops first start to fall, they are round, but wind resistance on the way down flattens them slightly into raindrops shaped like miniature burgers.
What causes a rainbow?
Raindrops are like crystals. When sunlight passes through them, it bends, causing the light to spread into bands of colors. Now, the trick in seeing a rainbow is that the sun must be behind you and falling water must be in front. In other words, you are sandwiched in between the sun and the rain.
Why does the sun shine during some rainstorms?
Sometimes the sun and the clouds are sharing the sky at the same time. A rain cloud is positioned next to, but not over, the sun, so it can be raining from one part of the sky and the sun can be shining from the other.
Why are some clouds white and others dark?
If clouds are too thick, only a little bit of sunlight shines through, making them look dark. If clouds are thin, more sunlight passes through them, so they look white.
Is it really quiet after a heavy snowstorm, or is it just my imagination?
It really is quieter outside after the snow falls. Sounds seem muffled by the fresh snow because snow actually absorbs sound. Now, this is because tiny air spaces in fresh snow trap sound waves, making snow a perfect sound absorber.
How much water is there in snow?
Well, we could try melting a pile of snow and measuring the water. On average, 10 inches of snow would equal 1 inch of rain.
Why do clouds float in the sky rather than falling to Earth?
Because the water droplets and ice particles that make up a cloud are so tiny, it takes 7 billion of them to make up a tablespoon of water. And they're so small that they're just a tiny bit heavier than air. So as they slowly fall, the slightest puff of wind will send them upward again. Those were some great questions about weather up in the sky. Now let's come down to Earth and find out how wind and moisture and temperature affect things here on the ground.
Does a pond freeze from the top down?
If you have gone swimming in ponds or lakes, your body may have sensed a different temperature on your legs than on your chest. Cold water is heavier and drops to the bottom. Warm water rises. But water has a very strange quality. When it nears the freezing point, it expands, it gets lighter, and it floats to the top. The frozen water at the top layer of the pond then begins to lower the temperature of the water right under it. Over time, with below freezing temperatures, the ice layer thickens, freezing more and more of the water in the pond from the surface downward. If water froze from the bottom up instead, most of the living creatures would die, and it would take longer to thaw a pond.
Why is the beach cooler than the country or the city?
In the summer, the air over the ocean is cooler than the air above the land. As the warm air from the land rises, the cool air from the ocean blows in to replace it, and this is called a sea breeze.
Why are there water drops on the grass in the morning, but it hasn't rained?
Dew has formed. Now, all air contains water vapor. At night, when the air is cooled, water vapor will condense on surfaces and dew will form. Frozen dew is called frost.
Why is ice slippery?
When pressure is applied to ice, the ice crystals are crushed. When that happens, the ice turns into liquid water, but it freezes again as soon as the pressure is released. When you step onto ice, the pressure of your weight melts a layer of ice, causing you to slip.
Why do the leaves change colors in the fall?
In the autumn, the lower temperatures cause some leaves to stop producing chlorophyll, the green pigment or coloring we see in leaves. This allows for other pigments, which are masked by chlorophyll in the summer, to color the leaves. Changes in temperature and the amount of light also stimulate the production of even more pigments. This is why fall leaves can be seen in many different and beautiful colors.
How How does the weather on other planets differ from that on Earth?
Because all the planets are at different distances from the Sun, each has unique weather conditions. For example, the atmosphere on Mars is very thin, with hardly any gases and no water. It is a very cold and dry planet. Now on Venus, the atmosphere is 90 times heavier than ours on Earth. This creates a layer that traps heat, causing high temperatures as high as 887 degrees Fahrenheit. It's great living on planet Earth. We have better weather. Of course, it's not always kind to us. Take the wind, for example. When it really whips up, it can cause incredible destruction. A tornado can lift a cow up into the air and hurl it 100 yards. Talk about power. Now, you guys have some terrific questions about wind power, and here they are.
Why does the wind blow?
Wind is simply air in motion caused by differences between low air pressure and high air pressure. When cold air is warmed up, the warm air rises and becomes less dense, causing low pressure. The surrounding cold air flows in underneath to replace it, causing high pressure. The greater the difference between the two pressures, the stronger the wind.
What is the difference between hurricanes and tornadoes?
There are a few differences. They develop from different places, their speeds are different, and one lasts longer than the other. Now, a hurricane starts over the ocean and may travel to land. A tornado starts and dies over land. The average tornado width is 100 yards. The average width of a typical hurricane is 300 miles. A hurricane's wind is not quite so fast as a tornado's. Now, a hurricane develops more slowly and may last several days or even weeks, while a tornado starts spontaneously and may last for only a few minutes.
How does a hurricane stop?
A hurricane dies in one of two ways. When it travels from the ocean to the land, its speed lessens and then the storm dies. Now, if it heads back to the ocean from the land, it dies once it reaches colder air or colder water.
Why does the United States have so many tornadoes?
It's because of the dry, cold, and high winds from the Rocky Mountains colliding with the moist, warm, and low winds from the Gulf of Mexico. Now, this collision occurs most often over the Midwest, which is called Tornado Alley.
Why are we told the temperature and then the wind chill factor?
The temperature tells us whether the air is hot or cold, but when the wind hits your body, you lose heat more quickly than you would if the air was calm. This makes you feel much colder. The wind chill is the colder temperature that you feel.
Why don't the strongest winds topple the tallest buildings like the World Trade Center in New York City?
Architects take the wind into account and design these buildings so that their tops can sway up to 3 feet in the wind.
How is it possible for a hot air balloon to fly?
The air in a hot air balloon is heated by a propane flame. Now, as air heats up, it becomes lighter. That's why hot air balloons fly. They contain warm, light air, which causes them to rise. Riding the wind. Wow, that looks like great fun. Hey, have you ever wondered why sometimes it's hot and sometimes it's cold? Is it because sometimes you want to go swimming and sometimes you want to go sledding? I don't think so. Let's check out some of your questions about hot and cold.
If hot air rises, why does it get colder as I climb up a mountain?
As warm air rises, there is less air on top of it pushing it down, so it is able to expand. When it expands, it becomes thinner and less dense, and thinner air is not able to hold as much heat. This is why warm air cools off as it rises, and why it is colder the higher up the mountain you get.
What's the difference between a Fahrenheit scale and a centigrade scale?
The Fahrenheit scale is named after a German scientist by the name of Gabriel Daniel Fahrenheit and sets the freezing temperature of water at 32 degrees and its boiling point at 212 degrees. In 1742, a Swedish astronomer named Anders Celsius came up with a more rational scale. He made the freezing point of water 0 and its boiling point 100. Now this scale, called the centigrade or Celsius scale, is used by many scientists and most countries in the world.
Why is it hot in the summer and cold in the winter?
Because when the Earth is tilting towards the sun, it is hot, and that's summer. When the Earth is tilting away from the sun, it is cold, and that's winter.
Which is colder, the North Pole or the South Pole?
The South Pole, also called the Antarctic. Here, temperatures are as low as minus 112 degrees Fahrenheit, and the wind blows as high as 200 miles per hour.
How does the thermometer work?
When the air is warm, the liquid inside the thermometer expands and rises up in the glass tube. When the air is cold, the liquid inside the thermometer contracts and falls inside the glass tube.
What is El Nino?
El Nino means child in Spanish. The Peruvians named it that because this condition, which warms the Pacific waters, tends to develop at the end of December, near Christmas time, and the term El Nino is often used to refer to the Christ child. Now, El Nino occurs every several years when a warm current flows eastward across the Pacific, just south of the equator. This warming of the Pacific Ocean affects climates all around the world, causing major rainstorms and flooding.
How does a volcanic eruption cause weather to change halfway around the world?
When a volcano blows its top, the material it spews into the atmosphere causes changes in weather for months in areas all around the world. Mount Pinatubo's eruption, for example, in the Philippines, caused a haze over most of the Earth by early 1992. The Earth received less sunlight, which caused the temperature to drop everywhere by about 1 degree Fahrenheit for a year. In the United States, we had an unusually cool summer and a cold winter the following year. That's kind of a strange twist. We know volcanoes to be incredibly hot, yet when they blow their tops, they can make the rest of the world a little cooler. Just one more thing that makes the weather so interesting. Now let's hear some of the questions you have on how weather affects you.
What causes frostbite?
When someone is outside too long in the cold, their skin can become so cold it freezes. This is frostbite. Hands, feet, ears, and noses are the most likely places to be frostbitten. That's because the heat from your body escapes faster through these areas.
When I try to pack some snowballs, they fall apart. How come only some types of snow stick together?
The snowflakes that fall on cold days are dry and light. Now, this snow doesn't stick together. The snowflakes that make the best snowballs are moist, fluffy, and large. The secret is the water. When you pack the snowball, the heat and pressure from your hands will melt the snowflake crystals to water. When the water refreezes, this ice holds the snowball together.
Why do trucks lay salt on icy streets?
Trucks drop salt on icy streets when the temperature is above 0 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, salt, which is made up of sodium and chloride, attracts and separates the water molecules in the ice. Therefore, the ice melts. As long as there is salt on the water, the molecules cannot join together to form ice crystals.
Is it better to wear dark or light-colored clothing during the summer?
Light or white clothing is your best bet in the summer because it helps keep you cool. This is because light-colored clothes reflect the sunlight, keeping the heat away from your skin. Now, dark-colored clothes absorb the sunlight and change it to heat, keeping you warm.
Can you get sunburned playing in the snow?
Yes, because the snow reflects the ultraviolet rays from the sun onto your skin.
On a hot day, why does moisture on your skin sometimes cool you off and other times make you shiver?
As a molecule evaporates, it carries some of the heat from the liquid it has just left. When you perspire, the water your sweat glands deposit on your skin is warmed by your body, and when this water evaporates, it carries away heat and cools you down. Now, just the opposite happens when the air is dry and windy. After a swim on a hot, dry, windy day, water quickly evaporates from your body. It can carry away so much heat that you get goosebumps even if the temperature is 90 degrees Fahrenheit.
Why do your ears pop when you're flying on an airplane?
You don't typically feel air pressure because there's pressure inside your body as well as outside, so the forces are about equal. However, when you go up in an airplane, air trapped inside your ears has a higher pressure than the air outside your body. The pressure of the air pushing out makes your ears pop, equalizing the pressure. You see, I told you kids ask the most interesting questions. Think about all the amazing stuff we learned today just from asking questions. There's so much to know about the weather, about the wind and the rain, thunder and lightning, about the earth and the sun, about how weather affects people and life here on Earth. Never stop asking questions because there's always something new and exciting to learn about the weather. Who knows? Maybe some of you will be meteorologists or forecasters someday, studying weather, maybe on a different planet where somebody someday may ask you, why is the sky green? Think about that. See ya.